What is up? What is up? What is up, everyone? Everyone, everyone. It is another day, another time, and another week for Real Talk Monday. You all, I have my beautiful co-host, Miss Tevis, in the building. How you doing, ma'am? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I am great. So you all tonight, I'm gonna be real, y'all. Tonight's episode, it's gonna be raw, it's gonna be real, and it's gonna be uncut. So before we get started with tonight's episode, we definitely have a disclaimer that we will be reading for you all. And at this time, I'm gonna let my co-host read that disclaimer for y'all.
Hey, everyone. What we're talking about tonight is a sticky subject and can be felt in many capacities. So we felt the need to go ahead and create a disclaimer for this. So we are aware that these topics and these conversations are very hard, hurtful, and also very important. Everyone that knows me knows my tolerance for those who have raped, abused, sodomized, taken advantage of children, women, and men. Understand that the conversation that we are having are some of our perspectives, but also views of others by way of things heard, viewed, and or read. It is not our goal to accuse or convince our viewers to change their minds about something they feel strongly about because we don't know other people's experiences. We are just having open dialogue to learn, hear, and understand other perspectives. It is always my attempt to use proper language, not accusing, but instead saying victim, those who are accused, or accused if they have been accused by law and jury. If these topics are something you are going through now or have, please seek help by calling the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1 800 656 HOPE, or the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1 800 422 4453. Thanks.
All right, y'all. So now let's go into the theme song and let's kill it for the night, y'all. And y'all like and share and let everybody know that Real Talk Monday is in the building, y'all. Let's go. What is up? What is up? What is up? You all, you all, you all. It is another day, another time, and another week for Real Talk Monday.
What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? What's up with you? What is up? What is up? What is up? It's only up from here. What is up? What is up? What is up? Let's go. What is up? What is up? What is up? Real talk. Real talk. What is up? What is up? What is up? Real talk. Real talk. Monday. Tune in to Real Talk Monday with Reverend James H. Glover III, a godly show that keeps it real.
All right, y'all. All right, all right, all right. We are in here. We are in here. We are in here. So, y'all, tonight we are going to talk about, can you separate the artist from, can you separate the artist from the man, from the talent, from the accusation? Can you separate the artist or the man from the accusation? So, you all get ready because this is going to be a hard hitting discussion and a discussion that's definitely needed in our community. So, the first two individuals that we will be talking about tonight, I believe in ladies first. So, I'll let my co host go first and then I'll take it from there.
Okay, so um of course we hear a lot about the celebrities that we see, that we share TV time with, or sports, or just in viewing, right? So can you separate the man and the celebrity? And so we both chose two people, and I chose Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. I chose them. I wanted to choose a man of, this is an interchangeable word, black, African American, black or brown versus a white man, Caucasian, what have you. So I chose these two men. I chose these two men, as we know, since 2014. It's just been in the public eye about each of these men, right? So one would say, who is Bill Cosby, right? Who is Bill Cosby? William Henry Cosby Jr., aka Bill Cosby, is a comedian, an actor, an author, aka America's dad. Many folks in my generation remember him from the Cosby Show that aired from like 1984 to 92, and from the Fat Albert Show, which ran until 1985. Some may remember him from I Spot, as well as Little Bill, that was in the 90s and 2000. As we continue on watching reruns of these shows, there was a comedian that came out and pretty much started this uproar with Cosby and these accusations. And this was in time of the Me Too movement. We heard about Bill Cosby and how he was accused of drugging women with Benadryl and the other drug that I've drawn a blank. But anyway, so because Bill Cosby was accused by multiple women across decades, so from like the mid 60s up until the early 2000s, a lot of the accusations were thrown out. So it was only one woman who Quaaludes, that was the other drug, Benadryl and Quaaludes. There was only one woman whose accusations were able to stand trial because hers were the most current. Bill Cosby was sentenced to time in jail, where he did spend a few years in, but because of the filing and how one lawyer person wasn't truthful to him about when he went on the stand and what he could share and couldn't share and what would be held against him and what was not. They eventually, after 3 years of being in prison, they eventually let him out. And the lady whose accusation stood was Adrienne Constant, where he was convicted of aggravated indecent assault against her. Cosby's situation, I think, was hard for the Black community because he was America's dad, right? Who didn't love Fat Albert? Who didn't love the Cosby Show? Who didn't love Little Bill, right? And I think it was hard, and not just because of all those things, but also because of the person that he portrayed to us on television and the fact that he was older, right? So these were the things that you were hearing other people say. So for me, it was just really hard because, dang, it's almost like a fall from grace, right? Like it was a fall from grace. Bill Cosby, I know that his era was the time of, drugs, rock and roll, what have you. There are a few pending cases still on him, and that is the two young girls, I think a 15 and a 16-year-old at the time, and they were at the Playboy Mansion, and he sexually assaulted them. One of them was at the mansion, I believe. And then the other one was, I think her name is Judith Huth, I believe. And she alleged that Cosby, she's the one that kept going back. She knew that Cosby was drugging her, but she kept going back. So the question was like, if you know this man is drugging you, why do you keep going back? Why do you keep going back if you know this man is drugging you, right? Because he promised her that he would help advance her career, but he also said to her, if you tell this, I will sue you for defamation and your career would be over. Right. And I think that had a lot of men and women, black and white, questioning her motives. Right. I am definitely not in a position to judge anybody, because a lot of times we don't know how we're going to respond and act if we're in these situations. But we all have our own opinion, right? None right or wrong, none to be judgmental, just to just gain clarity. So that is pretty much Bill's story. That is his story. He was accused of drugging women and having sex with them using Benadryl and Quaaludes. The only case that he was charged with was Andrea Constant. Cosby did admit to casual sex involving Quaaludes with a series of young women, and acknowledging that his dispensing the prescription drug was illegal. A lot of the cases exceeded the statutes of limitation for criminal prosecution, except for Andrea's, because they happened so long ago. So that is Bill Cosby's story. I think that the things that people question then is, why did the women take so long? And why did Miss Judith keep going back after she knew that? Again, this is stories we're reading. Some we know may be factual, some may not. And then moving on to Harvey Weinstein. Who is he? He's an American former film producer. He and his little brother co-founded Miramax Film Studios, and they sold that to Disney, and eventually they had their own studios, the Weinstein Company, I believe. Some of the films that they're known for is Chicago, Shakespeare in Love, Bridget Jones' Diary, Django, The King's Speech, and Pulp Fiction. So some of those are those big films that they were known of. He was acquitted, from my understanding, on 3 other accounts: predatory sexual assault, and it was another one, but 2 women accused him, and an actress and an assistant. He was convicted of sexually assaulting, I think she's a production assistant, Mimi Haley, maybe, and an ex-actress by the name of Jessica Mann. He was acquitted, like I said, on those 3 charges, and was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Since 2017, more than 80 women have accused Weinstein, and I think Cosby had 60 women that accused him. Like Cosby, he was removed from a lot of things, a lot of the production companies, Academy Motion Pictures, the British Academy. And so, comparing those 2 men who were both famous in their own ways, in their own rights, Bill 60 women, Weinstein 80. A lot of bills were thrown out because they were from so long. Cosby's was. Weinstein, 2 of his stuck. They both have pending cases still that are being looked at. For the 2 that were children at the time, those cases don't ever get thrown out. They don't go with the same law as the other ones, being, out of a certain range. So those are still lingering over Bill's head, unfortunately. But those are the 2 people. Those are the 2 situations that I kind of wanted to bring to the forefront. So, Pastor, do you want to talk about your 2, and then we'll dive into those questions at the end, those other questions at the end?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Definitely do it.
Go for it.
So my 2 that I picked was Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley. All right, so let's get it started, y'all. Who is Michael Jackson? If you've been living under a rock, you don't know who Michael Jackson is. And if you've been living under a rock, you don't know who Elvis Presley is. Michael Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana. came to fame with his brothers, the Jackson Five. From the beginning of his career, he was bound to be a star. Even when he went solo, he is still one of the top selling artists, one of like the top selling albums of all times in the album Thriller. But he had some different issues that he went through, and what was he accused of was he was accused of child molestation, which started back in 19 his started in 1995. Then I'm sorry, 1993. He settled that out of court. That got settled. Then in 2005, another group of accusations came towards him. Went to court on it. He was found not guilty. But here's the crazy thing, you all. One of the ones that stood on the stand and testified for him, testified in his defense now in 2019, him and another guy, after Michael is dead and gone, they come out with a series or a documentary called Surviving Neverland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my thing is this: I'm not accusing, I'm not saying he was wrong or anything like that. If Michael did it, he deserves to be punished for it. But my thing is this: if you are defending him at one point, it kind of looks fishy that then all at once you go back in 2019 when you're not really making that much money and you want to come out with a series called Surviving Neverland.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of fishy to me. Nothing really came of it that I know of. Then let's go to Elvis Presley. But we can't say that Michael's career took a big hit. Granted, the diehard Michael Jackson fans supported him, but some fans really looked at him in a different light at that point. Now let's go to Elvis Presley. Who is Elvis Presley? Was who some call the king of rock and roll, who some call the man that invented the pelvis moving while singing. He is one of the smoothest singing guys that I know as far as playing guitar and singing. He took a lot that he learned from living in Mississippi, in Memphis, Tennessee. He took a lot that he learned from living in Memphis, Tennessee, and being around African Americans. And he took it and capitalized off of it and made a lot of money off of it to the white audiences, because at that time the African Americans really wasn't allowed to really be on a lot of them stages
or perform in
or perform. Yeah, that he was able to get on. So he was known as the innovator of it when really he wasn't. He stole it from someone else. So it's kind of crazy how that happened. But what he was accused of was marrying a 14-year-old. So, but when I tell you it was swept under the rug, you never really heard about it. Wasn't nothing said about it. It was swept under the rug. Nobody said nothing. Everybody just kept calling him the king of rock and roll. He abused pills. He did all of these different things. But nevertheless, he was still known as the king of rock and roll. But yet and still, everything that he did, they looked over it, they looked past it, and they gave him a pass. But Michael, on the other hand, they drug him through the mud. Drug him through the mud, called him every name but a child of God, and came up with nicknames for him and everything. Elvis didn't get that same treatment. So did the color of his skin affect him? Most definitely.
You felt they did in that case. Okay.
Definitely in that case, yeah. So what about you and yours? Do you feel like the color of the skin affected him?
So I don't. When I look at Weinstein and Cosby, I don't feel that the color of the skin had an impact on their trials, like at all. As I was researching and reading up on it, I think they did what they could, lawyers, judges, jury, with the information that they had. Cosby's was so long and drawn out because his spanned over many decades, and by the time that they came forward, the Me Too movement, it was already past the time that things could be considered in the court of law, right? So a lot of his stuff was thrown out. So I think they did what they could with the information they had. And for Weinstein, his trial lasted 5 days and he got his 20 plus years. So I think because his stuff was so bold and blunt and out there like it was, and more recent, that they did what they had to. So no, I don't think with these two cases it did. Racism or race or the color of their skin had anything to do with it. Michael and Elvis, kind of somewhat two different generations. But when you say that about Elvis marrying a 14-year-old, which that is something that I did not know. I do think about R. Kelly and Aaliyah, that whole situation, because he did the same thing, right? Although her parents stepped up and, from what we know, they had to get it annulled and everything. That is a similar situation. As far as artists marrying younger women. So no to racism for mine. Elvis and Michael, yes. Was that the only sexual, not that it was not a big deal, the only sexual mishap with Elvis? Did he have did they talk about any other sexual abuse cases or molestation or anything? Was it just...
It was more about his abuse to drugs.
Okay.
Him dealing with someone younger than him, and then they talked about how he was arrested on stage for dancing the way that he was, because at that time the way that he was dancing, and at that time they really wasn't trying to have it.
Right. Okay. Um, do you feel that the amount of money they made had an effect on how it was handled, either of these people?
Yeah, I think the amount of money affected it a little bit because, and then again, like you said, it was two different times. Two different times, because with Elvis, it was in the 60s. With Michael, it was about in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And like I said in the beginning, Michael settled one of his out of court. Elvis ended up marrying the woman that he was accused of.
Interesting.
So, and then from what I was told, from what I've read in different biographies of Elvis, that he met the woman that he married. He was overseas in the army and met her that way.
I see. Okay. So this woman isn't Lisa Marie's mom.
Yeah, I think it is.
I wonder about that. I'm curious about that. So money for the two, Cosby and Weinstein. I do know that AIG, which is an insurance program, supposedly settled a federal defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, someone just said it. Yep, it is.
That is Lisa Marie's. Okay.
Yeah, and I just read it. He met her in Germany, and it was through, and she was 14 years old, and she made a huge impact on him.
Wow. And how old was he?
He was in the army, so I think he was like in his late 20s, early 30s. And he originally met her at 12 years old. Wow. I
Wow.
didn't know that.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, okay. So yeah, so do I feel that money played a so for Bill and Weinstein, I think that I mean money played an effect in so can we say that Cosby pulled all these women because of who he was and his financial wealth, right? How he blew up in his career. A lot of people don't realize that he was a great student in most of high school, played all four sports: track, football, baseball, basketball. Went to an academy that was building up for college, but he ended up failing his 10th grade. He went into the Navy. He was on the medic side of the Navy, helped with Korean War. And once he got out of the Navy, he got a full ride scholarship to Temple, where he ran track and played football. Worked in a bar as a bartender,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
saw that on
and
the documentary.
used a lot of his comedy during that, and that's when he started his comedy thing. So Bill is, he's got a lot in his life that he had going on prior to. However, these women, I remember reading that a lot of people felt that the one lady that the case is kind of still open on, that kept going back after she knew Bill was drugging, that it was all for her because she had hopes to like get a breakthrough into the acting world, right? I would hate to believe that. I wish that I could talk to her and say to her, why did you keep going back? If you knew that he was drugging you, why did you keep going back? What was he saying, doing? I don't understand, right? As far as Weinstein, I think he was just taking it. Like from what I'm reading, like he was aggressively taking it from these women. No drugs, just forcing himself on them in hotels, in different spaces, inappropriate touching. He was just aggressive. Would nobody welcoming to his, right? Not
No,
that these women were welcoming to Cosby, but he was able to invite them over to this lavish lifestyle, and they came willingly, not knowing that they were going to be drugged. Don't get me wrong, they wasn't going to be drugged or knowingly knowing they was going to be drugged, but I hate to say this, but he had more of a grooming procedure. He was a groomer, whereas Weinstein was an aggressor, if that makes sense. Um,
okay.
and it all does end up being aggression at the end of it all. It just looks differently, right? Grooming versus just taking. So yes, money probably did definitely played a part in it while it was being done, as far as so many women coming forward afterwards for these lawsuits and paid out. I mean, I know Bill paid out some people prior to it. Yes, Quaaludes, and then I do also know that it said Benadryl. Quaaludes was let me see what that says. Quaaludes was a drug of choice back then, and it's on record that they all knew what they were taking. So yes, Quaaludes was what it was, and Benadryl also to the lady that the charges actually stuck. Um, but again, like I said, the one lady just kept going back, and that's kind of what is baffling to me. Oh, I was saying the um the lawsuits and the money being paid out after the fact, would they have done it to a broke person? I would hope so. I mean, they may not have been getting no money, but I would hope that if these things really happen, whether rich or not,
Oh, yeah.
that they would have, came forward eventually. So I can't really say if that played a part, more so than maybe their mental and emotional needed to release what had happened to them. Whether they get money or not, this needs to be talked about. This needs to be shared. This was happened to me. Harm was done, and it needs to be discussed, right? So I hope that was everybody's motive and definitely not money. How do you feel about Michael? Because Elvis was Elvis, and he married, and it was.
My thing was with Michael that I found interesting more than anything in is before the accusations even got started. His accusations started in 1993, the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1992, he was in court with Sony Music Group
Mm-hmm.
trying to leave that record company.
Mm-hmm.
And at
Mm-hmm.
that time, Sony Music Group had the most money as far as record companies
Mm-hmm.
around.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, I just kind of find it funny how, and then in 1995, he finally broke free,
Mm-hmm.
from what I was told. He won his case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I kind of found it funny how in 1992, he's trying to leave the company and he's in court having a lawsuit with the company about it. And then in 1993, his first lawsuit as far as child molestation
Mm-hmm.
comes out. So it kind of makes me wonder if this has been going on. Was it a setup maybe to
Mm-hmm.
kind of make him look bad, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
because they knew what they was about to lose?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that he didn't do it, but it's kind of the timing of it
Mm-hmm.
is kind
Mm-hmm.
of like what's getting me. And I definitely, in my opinion, I believe that, like you said, I would hope that if it's happened to you, which or not, you would still do the same thing. You would
Mm-hmm.
still come out and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, when you look at it, and I think a lot of these people looked at Michael and they saw dollar signs
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the first case he settled out of court. So
Mm-hmm.
they thinking in the back of their head, well, if he settled with them out of court, we might get a large lump sum as well, and he might settle with us out of court. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's just a thing of you got to know. I would hope that they would still do it, but I really don't know.
Do you feel that well, let me say this. I was watching a documentary of some sort about Michael a couple weeks ago where his maybe one of his maids they were interviewing her and were talking to her more so about what happened the night that he died. That's really what it was about.
Mhm.
But they also talked about how at certain times she would go into his room and it looked like a little boy's room, or she would find his underpants and the kids' underpants on the floor or in the closet, right? And she just knew that she could never say anything because some maybe bodyguards or some people at one point at some time told her, pretty much threatened her and told her not, whatever she sees in this house stays in this house. It's not to be repeated. Da da da. Something will pretty much
Right.
badly happen to you. Um, with Michael Jackson, I hated to hear that. I know Michael was deprived of his childhood because he was forced to be in the industry at such a young age. I know that he had a lot of childish ways, kiddish ways, by what we see in the media and his
Oh
desire
yeah,
to be a child. Um, but the sexual thing with kids, little boys, I don't have an explanation for that, right? That is one of those things where you just really have to be in a person's mind, right? To understand what the fetish is, what the desire is that they have for children, right? That's just a whole different story, a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. Um,
definitely.
but I guess too, something we can kind of chat on is like the culture perspective. Like what does the world say, right? Like how does the world view these men at this point, right? It's almost like a fall from grace for each of them.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
how does our black culture view the black men that have
Done this.
chosen to manipulate women and or children in a sexual manner. What was Bill thinking, right? I mean, yeah, he probably felt like he was just living his best life. I know he wasn't the only actor that probably did this. Unfortunately, and fortunately, he got caught, right? I guess I should say, fortunately, he got caught. But the culture, how does our culture deal with this, right? I know that for the Black and brown community for many years, if there was molestation that went on in the home or sexual abuse or physical abuse, it was swept under the rug. It wasn't talked about. You were if your mother assumed, in some cases mothers would blame the kid and not the adult, right? It just hasn't been talked about, or in many cases the children don't tell because they don't want to break up the family or disappoint their mother or their grandmother, right? How does the culture deal with this? What does this look like in the Black and brown community? Am I glad that the Me Too movement happened? I am. Do I feel that some people may have abused it? I can't say that, because everybody has their own story. You hear people say, "Oh, people are just taking advantage of it. They're just abusing it." But how do you know that? Because everybody's story is different. You know what I'm saying? So
Good point
I
on that.
think, huh?
I said that's a real good point.
Yeah, yeah. I think our culture is learning now how to better deal with it. They're learning to talk about it more, whereas back in our parents and grandparents generation, it wasn't talked about. Sexual abuse wasn't talked about. People were getting abused by their babysitters. People were getting abused by uncles and family friends, and the priests and the Cub Scout leaders, have been abusing. Coaches have been abusing, like, for years, right? And it was just always swept under the rug. So the cultural perspective, I think, is kind of opening up now, which it needs to, from my perspective.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And you all, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We not gonna be gone long. I promise y'all that. We're gonna be right back because we not done with this discussion tonight. But we're gonna take a real quick commercial break and we'll be right back, y'all.
What is up? 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 What's up with you? What is up? What is up? What is up? It's only up from here. What is up? What is up? What is up? Let's go. What is up? What is up? What is up? Real talk. Real talk. What is up? What is up? What is up? Real talk. Real talk. Monday. Tune in to Real Talk Monday with Reverend James H. Glover III, a godly show that keeps it real.
So you all definitely thank y'all for your orders of those t-shirts. We still have some. You can still order them. If you're looking to order them, just email me in my back channel, or you can email us at realtalkmonday1@gmail.com. You can get these t-shirts. Um, Small to a large will be $30. I mean $20 plus $7 for shipping and handling. Large, extra large and up will be $30 plus $7 for shipping and handling. And you can get them in any color that you want. So please, ma'am, please, sir, let's continue supporting and let's rock with this. And also, shout out real quick. I have a good friend of mine who I just got her book today. It is called The Hard Truths About Self-Care by Miss Janelle Santana. Please, ma'am, please, sir, please, y'all go get that book. It'll definitely help you in so many ways. So we're gonna get back to this discussion. For those of you who just tuning in, you all please, y'all have missed a powerful discussion already, but we not done yet. And we was just talking about how has the culture dealt with these men. especially the African American culture. I can say in the African American culture, it's been a divide almost. It's been one of those where if you thought they was innocent from the beginning, you still think they innocent now. A lot of the times,
Mhm.
if you thought they was guilty from the beginning, then all these accusations are doing are making you feel like they are even more guilty. So it's like it's been like a divide in my opinion, where some of our culture is supporting, some of them are not. We are kind of divided on which direction we want to go, which I would agree with you on the whole Me Too movement. I definitely agree that it was something that needed to happen for the ones that have actually been abused. I feel like it is a great thing for them to have that voice and to feel like their voice is finally being heard.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you, Brother James, did you dive in on the spiritual perspective? What does the Bible say about these sex acts or sex in general? I think we know the basic, but does it talk about the studies of abuse sexually or anything in the Bible from your knowledge?
From what I know, the best way to do it is to wait until marriage, as we all know,
Mm-hmm.
as what we have all been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And we just gotta make sure that, and the Bible also says, obey the laws of the land
Mm-hmm.
as well. So if the laws of the land is saying is illegal to
Mm-hmm.
do these things, then guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
not following the word of God because
Mm-hmm.
you're not obeying the laws of the land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just a thing of where one thing that we got to realize is no sin is bigger than any other sin.
Mhm,
So none of us have any right to stick our nose up at anybody else for
mm,
any of their sins
mhm,
because we can all be truthful. Every last one of us sin daily.
mhm.
We, have, we all have room for improvement.
Right.
But the thing about it is my sin may not be this, but I may be sinning in another way. And at the end of the day, you just got to check yourself and make sure that I can just speak for myself. I have a hard enough time trying to keep myself straight. I ain't got time to try to judge somebody else and trying to keep them straight.
That's right. That's right. I agree. I agree. And again, that's what we all know. We definitely should be waiting for sex. Our society is so sexually driven at this point. To me, sex is definitely overrated. It's the driving force in everything, the way our kids dress, the way our teenagers dress, what they see on TV, videos, songs. The world is sexually driven to an uncomfortable point. Do I believe people should be able to wear what they want to wear without being judged or discussed or uh, preyed upon? I do. I do. I do. At some point in this life, in this world, we didn't have clothes, right? We weren't
Mhm.
wearing clothes. We could walk around free, right? But I do feel like it is over. The world is definitely over sexualized at this point, and that's you hear people say sex sells. That's what sells, right? I think it's crazy. Do I think that it is hurting our young people? I do. But again, as a mother, um, just being in your child's ear, talking to them about all things, not keeping secrets, being raw and real. And I definitely am, just to keep them grounded, having those values, having those morals. Um, in a lot of aspects to me still ring true for sure, for sure.
Definitely, definitely. And I feel like that's something, one thing that I love about the shows that I do and that I produce and everything like that. One thing that I love about them is that we are not scared to have these hard hitting conversations
Mhm.
that a lot of people are running from.
with the
This is a good question. With the separation of church and state, do the laws of the land still hold the same weight as before? Mm, that's a good question.
it is a good question. You know, everything is divided with the church and the state. A lot is divided. You know, no prayer in school. You know, taking things as if you know, taking beliefs and prayer and Christianity out of everything. You know, you have schools that speak specifically to Christianity at this point. Do the laws of the land hold the same weight as before? I think that the laws are the same. I think that man, okay, let me say this. When I think of laws, I think about the judicial system. They ain't changed, right? I mean,
No, not at all.
things have changed, but they ain't changed, right? Has certain people when in office came in and made small changes by way of belief systems. Yes. Does that take the church or the religion or the belief or the spirituality out of each individual person? It does not.
Definitely.
However, like with the legal system that's not built for black and brown people, we have to find a way to fight back in that aspect and also in our spiritual aspect, right?
Definitely.
It's going to take certain people with a spiritual background or a spiritual belief to sit in certain office to kind of pour into the world by way of their beliefs. Although we're not supposed to mix politics and religion, it really is. It really is
You
mixed,
got to.
because if it was not, then prayer wouldn't be out of school, right? And so many things wouldn't be forbidden by way of religion, or our spirituality or our beliefs wouldn't be forbidden. So I say the laws of the land hold the same weight as before. I think it still stays, it's still the same, but the belief system and people that have sat in office and their belief system has played a part in what the um, spiritual belief looks like within the society, if that makes sense.
I definitely agree with that. I would agree with that 100% because I believe that a lot of the times, if we're wanting to see the changes and we're wanting to see things turn around for the better, it's gonna take Christ church-minded people, Christian-minded people, God-fearing people to get
Mhm.
into these positions and
Mhm.
not be scared to make the changes that need to be made.
Mhm. That's right. That's right.
I love this comment right here. I feel as if Michael has always been guilty. It was just one of those things that I could never understand with some of the black community because they still put him on a pedestal. Elvis was allowed to do what he did and never was stripped of anything ever.
No rock and
Mm.
roll hall of fame, nothing at all. We go back and look at Matt Lauer. He had a complete dungeon in his office on the set of the Today Show and did sexual acts. He was only fired, no charges, nothing taken from him, and you never know. So I mean that to me is
He
a
was
clear
further proof.
picture of how blacks are stripped of all things in society more quickly or more than whites are. I mean,
Oh,
I hate to
definitely.
say that, and I don't want to like always make everything black and white, but anyway, that's the way of
That,
our world, really.
that's
Not, and they
it's
both are
right
wrong,
there in black and white, but it's like you can't help it.
and they both wrong. I'm not saying Michael was right in any
No,
aspect because
no,
he was
definitely
absolutely
not.
wrong, right? And so
Definitely.
was Matt Lauer, however you say his name. They both are equally wrong. But I mean, that's a good point. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that kind of validates some of that difference between how in society and our culture things are mistaken. So the world build does the world build our celebrities up, athletes, actors, actresses, to tear them down? Does the world build them up to tear them down?
I believe a lot of people do not, but I believe that there are some people that do. They'll build them up to a certain level and they'll be paying attention to everything
Mm-hmm.
that they do, just waiting to knock them down a couple of pegs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they reach a certain level of success. I mean, look at the whole Michael Jackson thing, where when I said that Michael had reached a certain level of success in 1992, and he was trying to leave his record company, and then magically in 1995, boom, the first accusation of child abuse comes around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny to me how, but then again, it also goes back to, I believe that sometimes we don't protect our own in our own community.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we see these things going on, we need to let it be known. Like, yo, look, stay away from this person. They're doing this over here. They doing that over here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those. I got mine. I know what I know. So you need to. You can figure it out on your own type
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean, you think about the R. Kelly camp, the Michael Jackson camp. Like, how many of y'all was seeing all that?
My thing.
See
Let's
some?
hit on R. Kelly real quick because my thing on that is he was wrong. He was dead wrong. Not saying he wasn't. But what I am saying is some of them that was in his camp need to be right there in that jail sitting right beside him.
They do.
Some of them parents that persuaded their daughters or persuaded him to get with their daughters need to be sitting right there in that jail right beside him.
Now, yes. Anybody that was in either of those camps or any camp that was privy to this information and kept it hush hush, I feel like they're just as guilty and they're wrong for sure. Any parent, to me, any parent that allows a child to spend the night with a grown adult at any time, I'm like questioning. Like, I don't
Question
care how
mark, like,
famous,
what are you up
how
to?
famous you are, and how much money you got.
I don't care about
Ain't all
Neverland.
right
You
with
can't
you.
stay here.
What'd you say?
I don't care about Neverland. My child ain't staying there. Never.
Right. I think it depends on how powerful they get. It also depends on who they are and what they are attached to. An NFL athlete can't be as vocal and powerful as an NBA athlete, and for the simple reason the players control the NBA, rich white owners control the NFL. Good point. Good point.
Great point. Great point.
Good point. Good point.
Great point.
So does the world build them up to tear them down? So I feel like, yeah, the world builds, they're actresses, they're actors, they're
Mhm.
athletes, right? They are performing musicians. People building them up. People are building them up. I hope people aren't building them up to intentionally tear them down. Do they get tore down? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
When you are at a certain status quo, social economic, you are privy to so much harm and abuse by society, right? You really are. I would think that the world don't build people up intentionally to tear them down. Do I know that even just as quote unquote normal people like us working in certain programs, companies, and jobs, people will tear us down. Sometimes they don't ever let us build; they just tear us down, right? So
Tear us
I
down before
think
we can
that
build.
I think that the world. I think that the world. I mean, yes, society builds them up. Builds them up. We do because we give them all this money. We buy all their clothes. We mock what they say. We dance with the way they dance. We pay to go to movies. Pay to go to these concerts. We do everything. Yeah, we build them up for sure. For sure. But hopefully it's not with the intent to tear them down. Do they fall from grace because of us? Or do they fall from grace because they fall prey of temptation? The money looks good, the women looks good, the men look good, they can get sex all the time, right? They can pay for
Definitely.
sex. They don't have to pay for sex, right? It's whatever. They hurt themselves. I think when you lose focus when you are no longer grounded in your spiritual belief, in your morals and your values, and you start living life like carelessly, you tearing yourself down. You're doing that to yourself. You're falling prey. It's almost like an addiction after a while, right? You're addicted to drugs, you're addicted to sex, you're addicted to whatever. And eventually it consumes them. Like it just consumes them. So I don't think, and yes, when we hear about these famous people, these celebrities, falling for grace, we kind of like, dang, it hits us like they our neighbor or our uncles or brothers, right? It does. It hits us, right? But hell, we don't know. I'm sorry, I ain't supposed to cuss. We don't know them. You know what I'm saying? We
You're
don't.
good. You're good. This is called Real Talk Monday. You are good. You are good.
We
You
don't
are
know
good.
them like that, but that's just kind of my spiel on that piece. I know we're at our time, so I don't know if
No,
you want to say something about that or you're gonna play the game.
nah. We good, y'all. We are good. We are good, y'all. We pray that y'all have enjoyed this episode. We pray that we've given y'all a little something to think about and something to ponder on. We pray that we gave you a little information to think about and help you along your way. And as we said at the beginning of the show, if you need help in any ways, if you are in any type of situation like this, please call that helpline number. Tevis, could you give them that number one more
Yes,
time?
I can. Give me just a second. It is 1-800 for the National Sex Assault Hotline. It's 1-800-656-HOPE. Or the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline is 1-800-422-4453. If you know of anyone that's being abused, if you have experienced abuse, there is help. Don't feel like you are going through it by yourself because you're not. It is so common, unfortunately. And help is out there, right? Help is out there. Seek help. Seek help. Talk to somebody for sure.
Mhm. Definitely. So y'all, we know we've been a little heavy tonight. We've been walking heavy tonight on the night show, but we're gonna end it off with a little bit of fun. And we're gonna because y'all liked it last time, because y'all liked it last show, we're gonna play another round of this or that. So okay, I'll start it off. So Michael Jackson or Prince?
Unfortunately, I have always been a Michael Jackson fan. I know. You know
Yeah,
what? You know what ruined me with Prince? I never forget my cousins made me watch
Purple Rain.
oh my God. And I'm like looking like this. I was a child. I felt like, oh my God. And I didn't understand a man at that time, a man in heels with this permed hair and these tight clothes. It was different for me, right? But I loved Michael Jackson. So I would just have to say Michael Jackson. Unfortunately, I would have to say Michael Jackson.
I'm the same way. I was brought up on Michael. I can't help it. I can't
Yeah,
help it.
yeah, yeah.
Like Luther Vandross or Barry White.
Oh, that's good. I love Luther. I love Barry's deep voice, but I do love me some Luther because he's the man. He got that voice for
Yeah,
days.
yeah, definitely. He got the voice. He got the voice. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Soul food or Mexican?
Soul food.
All right. Outdoor date or indoor?
I think it depends on what it is. I have never did an outdoor picnic, and that's something that I have always wanted to do. So I would love that, or even just like biking or walking trails. I'm good with that kind of stuff. I'm pretty simple. Indoor dates is common, right? So I'm
Mhm.
kind of trying to live out of my uncommon norm. So I would say outdoor at this time.
Okay. Last one before I turn it over to you, unless you give
Okay.
me a couple. So I'm about to make it real hard on you now. You ready?
hmm
The O's or the Temptations?
Oh my God.
Or the Four Tops. OJ's Temptations are Four Tops.
So I would probably say the Temptations, the OJs, and then the Four Tops.
You said the OJs?
The Temptations first.
Okay. All right. So the Temptations first. Okay. All right. I'll give you that. I'll
Mhm.
give you that. I'll give you that. Yeah, I like the Temps.
Okay.
Temps for me.
Right, right.
Um,
Okay. My turn.
yep.
Okay. So pineapple pizza or candy corn?
Candy corn.
Okay. Winning the lottery or finding your soulmate?
Finding it my soulmate, because finding my soulmate will be like I won the lottery. So finding my soulmate.
Okay, okay. Test the water or dive in the deep end?
Dive in. Dive in.
Ketchup or ranch?
Ranch.
Do you take your phone in the bathroom or no phone in the bathroom?
Phone in bathroom.
Sauce on the side of your food or on top?
Top. With some extra sauce on the side of it though.
Okay, okay. Zombies or vampires?
I'll take a zombie. I'll take my chance with the zombies.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. Okay, this is a funny one. Bad breath or body odor?
Ooh. Mm. Mm. Ooh. Give me that bad breath. Give me no. Yeah, give me the bad breath. Give me the bad breath.
I don't want either one. You
Because
say
I will sit there and I'll put some gum in my mouth. I'll keep gum around me. Pass you some gum. Pass you some gum. But that body odor, I ain't dealing with that. No. Give me the bad breath.
Oh my goodness. Somebody said pork ribs or beef ribs.
Ooh. Give me the beef. Give me the beef.
Yeah, I mean health wise, I mean they're both terrible. I mean, I don't eat pork until I go to Kentucky to my daddy's house, my parents' house. That's the truth. I'll eat bacon. I'll eat pork bacon. That's the only pork I buy. But if I'm gonna eat a rib, it's gonna be a pork rib for sure. For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
I
all
guess
right. I got one more.
Okay.
One more for you. One more for you.
Okay.
Michelle Obama
Mm-hmm.
or Beyonce knows.
Michelle Obama all day.
Definitely. Definitely.
All day. All day.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, Michelle. Can't argue with that. So y'all, we pray that y'all enjoyed us tonight. And we pray that, like I said, something was said or done that was a help for y'all tonight. And we will be back. And love y'all. Stay blessed, be blessed, and be a blessing to someone else. We know next Monday is Halloween. So we will not go live next week. We will not go live because it is Halloween. So y'all stay safe out there. We love y'all and God bless. Peace.